Hello, I'm Mr. C here in the wood shop, talking about today the planer and safety. So let me move this piece of wood out of the way first. So let's talk a little bit about safety on the planer, okay? Luckily for us, we have a really beautiful Northfield planer that'll allow for us to plane our material and bring it down from in the rough to a finished product, or as far as the faces being planed for us to go ahead and start building our projects, okay? So I want to talk a little bit about all the different parts and what you need to know to run this safely and effectively in the shop. Over here we have the hand crank, and this will adjust how fast the feed rate or the speed rate that material goes into the planer and out the planer, okay? But let me just start with this. I'm sorry, I'm getting a little bit ahead of myself. If you're not familiar with what a planer does, it's this. We buy our lumber in the rough, which means this material, it's not real smooth at all. It's kind of like really rough on the surface. It's not refined. It's still kind of grainy, and it has all kinds of undulations in the surface, and it's left in the bandsaw from the sawyer when they cut the tree down and started milling it, okay? Then they dried it properly, and then they have it stacked, stickered. This way for them to stack the material for it to dry. And then when we purchase it, we have it sent to us, and then this is the way it looks. And it's less expensive for us to buy material in the rough than have them plane it. So we have a planer, so let's use this, okay? When we get our lumber, I want you to look at how thick it is. Now this happens to be what's called 4/4, so 4/4, which means 1 inch thick, okay? That's the way the lumber industry grades and sells lumber, or sticks of material. So this piece happens to be 4/4, and it means 1 inch thick. But in the drying process, typically, and I would say this probably 99% of the time, the board along the grain, or the growth rings, is going to cup one way or the other, depending on where the growth rings are, which way you have it flipped, the board. So if it cups up, I want you to have the cup side up, or the crown side up, when you put it into the planer. The planer cleans up this surface all the way on this side and this side, and these are called faces, okay? So we want to clean the faces up using the planer, all right? So what I want to do is I want to set the machine up before I do anything else. The first thing we always do before we start making adjustments on the machine is we lock up the power. So let me do that. The lockout is right on the side of the machine down there in the bottom, okay? Now, with that piece that we know is 1 inch thick, right? But because it cupped, it's probably going to be 1 1/8. So I can only take off 1/16 of an inch per pass whenever I'm using this machine. So I want to set this right at 1 1/16. There's a scale or a ruler right here, and this hand wheel right here will allow me, when I turn it this way, the bed will drop down or come down. When I turn it this way, the bed will come up. All right? Now, let's talk a little bit about the parts that are inside of here. In the front and the back on the head of the machine, there's rollers that have a pressure roller to bring the material down and through the machine. They're 18 inches apart from one point to the other point, so the minimum length of material that we can put through this machine safely is 18 inches. So we want to make sure that we always use a board at least 18 inches in length or longer. Okay? We do not want to try and put something in there that's shorter than that, because we will have a serious problem. It could become a flying projectile. So we do not want to do that. If you have a shorter board than 18 inches and you need to have it planed, come and see me and I'll show you how to use a backer board to get the material through the planer and plane it safely without putting anyone into harm's way. Okay? So, over here, we have a scale here. We have the hand wheel that will adjust the bed up and down. These two buttons are your on and off, and then these two buttons This yellow one is the up button, so if we have to move this up very rapidly, we can push this button. If we need to move the bed down very rapidly, we use the down button. Typically, you're not going to have to use that because we only have to adjust it a little bit at a time. So just basically we're using the start, which is green, makes sense, like a light, traffic light, and stop is a red button, okay? Now I need to let you know something. When you hit stop, that doesn't mean that the cutter head is just stopped immediately, okay? It is going to take time for it to rotate and slow down, okay? But we do have a brake here. So once you turn the power off, you can brake and then release, brake and release, and do that often until you know the cutter, until you feel that the cutter head has stopped. If you're not sure if the cutter head has stopped or not yet, you can go over here and look at the end, over here in the machine, the actual motor, and you can see the spindle head, if it's still spinning or not. Just look, don't touch, okay? And you can see if that has stopped, okay? All right. I'm going to have to pause right now for just one moment, and then I'll let you back in, and we'll go over how to run the rest of this machine, okay? Just one minute.